6 figure in 6 months, and Grace has revealed that she had doubled her pharmacy income during her first year full into entrepreneurship. What would you say helped you the most in your success? Because the success rate in entrepreneurship about 3%. Today, we're here with Grace Wang, who went from being a pharmacist as a mother of two to entrepreneurship to his 6 figures in 6 months as a real estate investor. And I've got Grace here on the hot seat sharing some of her lessons and the best advice that she has for those of you who need to see what's possible for you. Grace, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you for having me, Julia. It's my pleasure.
So the first question we're going to discuss is your big outcome, 6 figures in 6 months. And we had a brief conversation before we started recording this video, and Grace has revealed that she had doubled her pharmacy income during her first year full into entrepreneurship. Grace, can you tell us a little bit more about this?
I have been in real estate investing for quite some time now, since 2015 to be exact. We have acquired multiple rental properties, and I was on the edge to transition to investing in real estate for the last couple years, but I was never have the enough courage to take the leap. And the more years I'm into it, the bigger question I ask myself: what is exactly holding me back? I have the skill set since I'm in the game for a while. And as for financial foundation wise, both my husband and I have very good stable income, so that was not a concern. However, the step that I have to take to jump over the hoop to actually do this full time, it actually took me like more than 2 years. So I was very fortunate. I know Julia personally as a friend, and I decided to reach out to her, and we have a chat. I remember it was raining. I was in the car waiting to pick up my daughter, and at the time, I basically needed someone to push me over the cliff, that to give me enough reason or give me a little bit push, because I think I was ready. I just didn't have the courage to do it. So by talking to Julia, it kind of shed some light on my thought process. It was not really logical. So basically, my whole bet was, well, I have a very stable job, and I was very, very happy with my coworker and the work environment. I'm actually enjoying it. So what's the reason what's the biggest reason I want to make the jump? So I'm keep justifying like why I want to stay, why I want to keep doing what I'm doing and not transition to real estate investing full time. And I remember the conversation clearly, and you said, we all have excuses. Basically, we will convince what we wanted to believe. We can convince ourselves one way or the other what we choose to believe. So that kind of planted a seed in my head that maybe I'm deceiving myself, that, the perceived enjoyment, perceived security was not necessarily the truth. It's more like what I want to believe. So I come up with various reasons to convince myself that's true. But long story short, I pretty much just take the leap of faith. That just right is the timing is really interesting, because it's right before the COVID outbreak.
That lack of safety is really what keeps people back.
Now I'm like fully engaged. I'm putting 100% of my energy and time in real estate investing. And it really, really, I pretty much live like the amount of success I achieve in 1 year is greater than the last 5 years I'm in it part-time.
If you think about
but
how
of course
long
I already have the fund.
We had this conversation before, how long it took you to get to that level of income, right? 6 figures in pharmacy, which is expected. How long it took you, like education, like all those studies and right? Like you have to build your career from that. And then with entrepreneurship, if you compare it, the timeline is way shorter when it comes to entrepreneurship, when it comes to income. Not to mention, when you are in a position like that, you have to work shifts that they give you. You don't really have control over that.
Right, right. I think that was the biggest struggle in
Yeah.
the very beginning because as a W-2 employee, you have this mindset, you have a paycheck every 2 weeks, deposit in your bank. That level of security that we are all so accustomed to.
Mhm.
And like in the first few months when I'm just getting started, I was actually doing cold calling every day for 4 hours and have no result. And I was basically like, um, I was questioned down. I was like, oh my God, like, what am I supposed to do? Am I
Mhm.
not doing it right? And all the self doubt, we're all human. So all that came
Yeah.
out. The ugly side,
Yes.
we never talk about as an
The ugly
entrepreneur.
side hits when you're doing it. We cannot
Right,
predict the ugly
right.
side until we're in it. And we're like putting in actions like, why isn't it happening faster? And then all the self-doubt sinks in. So one part of it is a decision to jump. The next part of it is how do you keep at it when you have so much self-doubt?
Yeah, and I kind of quoted this from your book, Am I There Yet? I think the theory was it takes a lot of courage to jump into the fire, but it takes a different level of courage to stay in the fire, enduring the pain. And
Yeah.
that's when the transformation happens. And I think that really, really resonate with me. And this is basically summarize what I did. And COVID actually helped me because I wasn't picking up shift in the pharmacy. I wasn't making income as a pharmacist. So that put me in a phase that I have to make it work somehow.
Mhm.
So there's a lot of trial and error. And then I was pivoting quite fast. Um,
Yeah,
yeah, so like whatever doesn't work, I just ditch it and then I try something else. And
that's
I
right.
think it all comes down to mindset. I think that's the number one thing that have helped me from the beginning, like feel like I'm keep hitting the wall and not achieving or make having any result till the end. The result actually comes in really naturally, organically. Um, it's when I have the shift in my mindset being
Mhm.
from a W-2 employee to a true entrepreneur. It's magical. It's very hard to kind of pinpoint where is the point was, but you can see the result from when you actually pushing really hard as having the W-2 mindset. Like, okay, the harder I work, the more outcome that I'm going to have.
Yeah.
Was just the entrepreneurship. Actually, sometimes you have to
Yeah.
back up a little bit and see the whole picture
Mhm.
and then choose what's the next step.
Yeah.
Sometimes like not actually pushing hard that would get you the result.
Yeah, working hard is not everything. This is where working smart really has to come into the picture. And more than anything, having trust and the ability to think for yourself. I think so many people struggle with this, the trust and the thinking for yourself. Just because someone told you you should be doing this, it doesn't mean it's always going to be the right thing, right? And the
Right.
trust is also you're putting in work, you can't see results, but things are happening, but it's not yet visible. It's not tangible yet. How do you keep doing the work? Because if you stop there, then now you lose the momentum. How do you keep doing the work when you cannot see the monetary result or booking a lot of calls or right? Or having opportunities like show up in front of you. Before all of that, how do you keep doing the work? What helped you the most, Grace? Because you mentioned mindset, you're sharing some of the transition, the challenges that you face going from employee to entrepreneur. And you brought up the mindset. And I found that you are one of those very few people who invest in mindset very early on. I find that a lot of people wait like 2 years and they like, I can't figure this out. It's obviously not strategy anymore because I invested a lot in strategy. Maybe I should start looking at something else, which is mindset.
Yeah.
And
Well,
you
well,
mentioned mindset very early. So I would like you to share with us what that means to you.
so I always believe in mindset. even when I was in a W-2 job, we all know Tony Robbins, and I listen to it. It's like it has to do with the state of your mind. If you are negative and you are thinking and you are depressed and you always look at things in that way. Um, but I would have to say this: the definition that I gave to mindset when I was a W-2 employee versus right now is a completely different definition. So going back, the reason why I choose mindset very early on is one because I always believe in it, even though I don't quite know what it is. And second, I mean, thanks to Julia, that you're constantly putting content out there, free content in YouTube, and anybody listening, I recommend that you actually go to the YouTube channel and check her out. So I was actually, when I commuting, even I think probably like 3 to 6 months before I reached out to Julia, I was actually listening her YouTube video when I was commuting. And some of the word that it resonated with me, but I don't quite register inside. So I know there's something there that worthwhile to explore. I don't know what I'm gonna get. So it's something that I feel like it do me a favor is I'm an explorer.
Mhm.
So anytime that I feel like there's something that for me to find out more about, I have no hesitation to go in and actually dig deeper. And I think that's my tendency. So I always believe in mindset, and I know there's something there that I don't understand completely. So
So what helped you the most then? What would you say helped you the most in your success? Because six figure in 6 months, not many people, I would say, even when I look at my clientele, which is a relatively small pool, but even if I look at like bigger programs, right? The success rate in entrepreneurship about 3%. 3%
wow,
success rate. And a lot of
wow.
people don't know that, but if you look at an average course, if you look at average coaching program, right, average anything that has to do with entrepreneurship is 3% success rate. So, having this track record in the first year makes you very exceptional. I'm not
Thank
I'm
you.
not saying that people can't do it after the first year. I mean, it took me longer, right? Because I also find that the more you have to rely on yourself a lot for survival, it's often harder to change your mindset because this is what helped you to get to here, right?
Mhm.
And I find it fascinating how some of my clients who make six figure 6 months or six figure in the first year, they I wonder what helped you the most in this whole process.
Uh, knowing myself. I think for the longest time, I kind of shut the voice inside off because I'm using my logical front a lot. I
Mm,
need to know why. I need to know the reason. I think it has to do with the scientific because I was in a pharmacy program. It's everything is about science.
yeah.
So I rely on my frontal lobe a lot.
Hmm.
Um, but oftentimes things happen for a reason, but oftentimes the reason is not necessarily obvious, or even you can verbalize the reason. So I think what really helped me, if I boil it down to a core message, is
Yeah,
really get to know who you are, because we all have our own gift and something that we naturally do better compared to others.
I agree.
um, Not necessarily compared to others, compared to yourself even.
Hmm.
Something that you naturally have a tendency to lean close to. Um, so let me take a two-step back. What really got me into thinking about real estate or entrepreneurship and everything is because my kids. So
Hmm.
when I had my kids, I realized having a W-2 job, 9 to 5, or in a hospital, various shifts, I have no control over my schedule. I have
Yeah,
no control what to say if I'm going to be able to attend my daughter's piano recital, or even go to the birthday, plan a birthday party without worrying in the back of my mind, am I be able to make it?
yeah.
So that kind of prompt me into thinking about alternative. So that's one thing. And
Mhm.
second, because I was working so much, my bonding with my daughter is actually broken. Like it's not to a degree that I wanted to be very close to her. I want to be a friend with her. I want to really
Mm,
know and watch her growth.
yes.
Um, and when and what I realized, even I put a lot of effort, a lot of thoughts, a lot of thinking into it, things not turning around. So now then I decided to look deeper. Is it something that inside me that I
Mhm.
haven't resolved that
Yeah.
impact on my relationship with my kids? So that kind of turned me inward rather than just looking what is available in externally, like what
Yeah.
are my options. Rather, I want to go inward asking what I really want and what I'm really good at, and
Yeah.
really who I am.
Mhm.
Because and I really believe that what you said before, Julia, is um, you have to become the person to be ready to be successful, to receive the success. It's not really chasing after the result, but rather becoming the person that is ready to be successful.
Yes.
So I think the number one thing that who helped me is that I get to know myself much better. When I'm running to fire, when I'm actually exposed myself to a really uncomfortable area, then my whole, how do you call it, like the authentic me came out.
Yeah.
And it actually opened my eye up like, oh wow, I did not see that part of me before.
Yeah. Because we have
That's
assumptions about who we think we are. And also, to take your point, people don't know their true strengths. People think they know their
right,
strengths.
right.
There's a lot of illusion around what am I good at, what am I not good at. And frequently, when people do this type of work with me, I find that people, what they thought they were bad at, they're actually good at.
Yeah,
They thought they were
so
good at, they're just so so.
yeah, yeah. And I think like real estate investing or being a realtor. So beside real estate investing, I'm also a realtor, so I help people buy and sell
Yeah.
residential, commercial properties and
Mhm.
whatnot. Um, Particularly in that role, you have to be good with sales.
Yes.
And I think the first 3 months when I was pushing hard and not having the result, it's because deep down, I didn't believe I can do sales. I
Yeah.
always believe that I'm introverted. I really good with analytical stuff because I'm good in science.
Mhm.
Um, I mean, that's part still true, but then I coordinate that being if you're analytical, if you're introverted, automatically you're not good at sales.
It's not true.
But
A lot of
quite
people think that you
opposite,
have to be extroverted to be good at sales. It's not true at all. Uh, a lot of extroverts can really suck at sales because they're too much about performing. Because sales is about connecting, right? And a lot of introverts are good with that one person in front of them.
yeah. So you read people better if you're
Yeah,
introvert because you're more observant.
observant.
And when you read people better and you actually um, can find out what they really need. So then to order to find a product or anything or service that fit the people's need better. So I didn't realize that until I'm actually deep in it. And once I see that side of myself
Hmm.
and also see that, basically the limiting belief that if I'm introverted, I'm not good at sales. Once I get rid of that, the whole door kind of open up.
Yes,
What the second I realized that, oh wow, actually I am really good at sales. I mean, how else I make a six figure in 6 months in
that's
sales?
right.
It
In
would be
business, you have to be
pathetic.
good at sales. There's no getting around it. You have to be
Right.
foundation of business is sales.
Right.
There's
Yeah.
no
Yeah.
such
So
thing as I'm
again,
not good at sales and I'm gonna avoid
yeah,
it.
so
No.
I think what going back to your questions, that what helped me the most is actually get to know myself better
Mhm.
and kind of peel away the layer that the layer that I believe who I am before,
Yes.
that not it probably be conditioned in my head
Mhm.
somewhere in my life that is not true.
Yeah.
And once I peel away the layer and I actually see myself as the me, as the organic me, as the me
Yeah.
from the very very first day when I was
Yeah.
born, that helped to open up a lot of more opportunities.
Mhm.
And I naturally do things better because that's who I am. And that not only that, when everything gonna come together, I'm not only improving my self-image, like how I view myself,
Mhm.
I improve my self-confidence, and does that transfer over my relationship with my
Oh,
kids.
for
They
sure.
see my changes and our relationship is improving at the same time.
Yeah.
So I think, yeah, I cannot emphasize enough that knowing who you are
Yeah.
is, I think, the number one key to do anything that's successful.
Yes, absolutely. If you read any successful entrepreneur and asking them also, I've seen Gary Vee answer the same question. I'm pretty sure Richard Branson answered the same question. They all said that one key to success is self-awareness. And a
Right.
lot of people think they're still self-aware, but they aren't. Because the level of your self-awareness is what's going
Yeah.
to give you the results.
And
Because
a
now
lot of
you know.
time that the more I yeah, the more I work with you, Julia, it's the more I realize we really, really need to question what we think is right.
Yes.
Um,
Just thinking for yourself at every level.
right. Sometimes it's inconvenient because you're so accustomed to your belief and you're just comfortable to believe the same thing.
Yeah.
And it's hard to kind of rattle that because that's your certainty, that's what you're familiar, that's security. It's
Mm,
very hard to say, okay, let's look and from a different perspective that might not be true. That's actually scary at
very
times.
scary.
Right. But the on the other side though, once you actually peel out the layer, you see the whole picture. You're like, oh my gosh, I never connected the dot. For example, like I did not know my low self-esteem. I mean, I always know that I have low self-esteem in the past. But I did not connect the dots to from being low self-esteem to the interpersonal struggle or challenges I
The
have,
connection with
the
people.
connection that
Mhm.
I'm yearning for connection, but why I can't have it, it doesn't matter how hard I try. It
Mhm.
all comes down to this the low self-esteem, and that low self-esteem, if you go down deeper, is caused by some event in the past that actually conditioned in our head. And is that true that I'm always low self-esteem? No, that's not true. So I mean, the more I work with you, Julie, and I really thankful that I actually get to work with you, is that I learned to open my mind, open my eyes up to the things that I didn't think that was there or even a possibility.
Yeah.
Just be open to it that someone that I believe myself into might not be true. I
Yes.
might be I might be a very different person that I thought I was.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
business is about connection, right? Because it's about human relationship. And this is a foundation that never changes. It doesn't matter what technology, what means, it is really about human connection. And
right,
when we don't have the results we want, that's the piece we have to look at. Where am I not connecting well with my audience, with my prospects, with the people who I want to do business with, right? That's the piece. And you're so accurate. This is so unexpected for people. We
right,
think that we are connected because our
right,
definition is also definition is a word connection. The way we were taught connection is not what we're talking about here. The way we are taught to talk connection is like in every family, right? Cultural as well. You sit down and you have a meal together. You say hello. You go on a vacation together. You physically are in the same space, but is that connection? And then questioning that is very difficult. Like what you said, it's like this shakes my world. If I question, is this actually connection? What is true
right, right,
connection?
right, right. And there's always a lingering unsatisfaction when I was in the W-2 job. And I think deep down, there's an entrepreneurship spirit in myself that I wasn't aware for the longest time. I thought I was looking for certainty. I thought I was looking for security, but there's not amount of money that made me more secure before ever than now. But
Mhm.
do I have a paycheck every 2 weeks? No, being an entrepreneur, the paycheck can be a big paycheck, but can be every 3 months
Yeah.
or even longer. So that unpredictable, a lot of people perceive that, oh my God, I can't do that. I can't live with the uncertainty. But when I step over on the other side right now, um, I felt like the only certainty that you can count on is a certainty within yourself that believe that it doesn't matter what happened, even I lose every single dollar right now, and I have two kids to raise, and whatever happened, I lose everything, that I still going to be okay. That level of certainty, that is what you can count on. And it's hard to describe how I get here, but getting here is amazing because now I don't worry about always worry about, oh, what if something happened? What if
Mhm.
some dramatic event happened and I lose everything? And it doesn't matter how much money you have in your bank, you still have the worry in the back of your mind.
Yeah, it doesn't
And
change. You could buy millions and millions and still die of anxiety every day.
right, right. And also the connection that we're talking about was um oftentimes you feel like you are surrounded with people
Mhm.
and you still feel lonely.
Yes,
And that's not true connection.
yes,
and and what I learned through the journey is, first you have to connect with yourself first
yes.
before you connect with others. If you don't even know who you are, what you're good at and what you like and what you want, there's no way you can connect with another person, because everybody's too consumed just trying to figure yourself out. And it's like two people trying to figure themselves out, and how do they even interconnect? So
Yeah,
like the term that you taught me, you have to be independent individually, then you can be interdependent with two
independent,
people.
emotionally independent,
Right,
self-secure, right? And what you said when it comes to, money and how people cannot leave their jobs, that's them being dependent on a job to save them.
right,
There's an
right,
underlying dependence, right? What is the antidote to that? Having self-security, that no matter what happens, I have the ability, I have the confidence, I have the skills, and I have the ability to learn skills to always be okay. That that piece is true abundance. That is true abundance. It's not about how much you have right now in the bank account, right? Because that takes time. As soon as you put in the
mhm,
work, you continue to put in the work, that will grow, right?
right.
But to
Yeah,
make
the
that grow,
certainty.
you need that certainty.
Right. And that certainty is what took me 2 years to make the jump. Um, because I felt like, okay, I need to, what is enough?
What
Do
is
I need
there's never,
6 months?
yeah.
Wait, do I need to have 6 months of saving? I do. Do I have to have 1 year saving? I do. Do I need to make sure that my kids' tuition, like we have enough money to pay a 3 year, 4 year tuition? We do. But still, you don't feel ready.
You don't feel
And
ready. Yeah.
you never feel ready. And I think that at some point you will have to ask yourself a question. Okay, if I don't do this now, am I going to regret it in my deathbed? If the answer is yes, then make the jump.
Yes.
Because what would be more, what would be worse than I mean, in your deathbed, you wondering, what if I did make a change? What could happen? And that regret is not something that I would trade, any certainty, that perceived certainty for.
Job is
I
a
would
perceived certainty
rather.
because
I'm
you can
sorry.
connect. A job is a perceived certainty, what you said, right? Because you
Right,
like,
right.
oh, anything can happen. People get laid off. A lot of people got laid off during COVID.
Yeah, I mean, it's very true. It's happening even right now. Like, in the hospital, they are cutting staff, like area that, especially surgical area, the surgical patient is reduced, the number of patients reduced, so they don't need as many nurses, so they're laying people off. I mean, that perceive, like in healthcare, is
Mhm.
perceived being secure, perceived being like always stable and always needed. But there you still have people being laid off during COVID. So
Yeah.
there's really no certainty other than tax and debt.
I think
Hmm.
this is where people struggle because they leave a job and now you have to like scramble to figure out a structure, but you create the structure for yourself. It's a lot of self-discipline.
Yeah, yeah. And the third thing or the fourth thing was um, strategy versus mindset. I always believe that if I do the right thing, things will happen for me. I
Mhm.
mean, it was true up to this point because, when I study hard, I get into pharmacy school. I was in medical school before in China. Um, and then when you study hard, you're going to have straight A's. It's almost like you can predict, like if you work hard, you will get more,
Yeah.
right? So that's a strategy. But in the entrepreneurial world, you basically create something out of nothing.
Hmm.
And oftentimes that strategy alone, I mean, I'm not saying strategy is not important. It's very important because you have to do the right thing to
Yeah.
produce the right income. But if you without the mindset, without the certainty that you can make things happen, not enough strategy, like not amount of strategy can make things happen if you don't have the mindset.
Absolutely. Because I think the mindset doesn't get discussed enough, and people have a perception of what mindset is. They think that mindset is just like pushing, right? Or something like that. Like having a strong mindset is like people think grit immediately. But grit is not enough to get you results that you want, right? You also, something harder than grit is flexibility. A lot of people lack there. And the best way I
Hmm.
can describe this is you look at any muscle as someone who trains really hard, right? That's grit, right? Working very hard. That muscle without flexibility is weak now.
Hmm.
It will tear. That
Yeah.
person can get hurt. They don't have enough flexibility in their body.
Yeah. And I have such a strong grip. Do you agree? Like I have
I
such a strong
agree.
grip.
You have very
And
strong
and
grip.
that's what got me here as a
Yeah.
pharmacist. But
Yeah.
that same grit it was not enough to be a successful entrepreneur, for sure. So
Yeah.
that caught me off guard because up until, when I made a jump, I felt like every time that I put my mind to it, I can get the result. It's
Hmm.
quite opposite with entrepreneurship. Sometimes you push harder,
Yeah.
you take a step back, you instead
Yes.
going for moving
Back it
forward.
up. Yes.
So
Absolutely.
so that's when I question what is the mindset I'm talking about. It's not pushing hard anymore. It's not just pushing through regardless how much difficulty or how much hurdle I face. I mean that's portion of it. Get you to a certain degree. But
Yeah.
if you want to break the ceiling,
Yeah.
the glass ceiling, you have to break that like just fixate on the grid. Pushing through difficulty was not enough.
It's subconscious work. It's not the frontal lobe, which is the conscious stuff. It's subconscious work. That's where the flexibility is. That's where we work around because
Right.
people with strong grit, they're always working from here. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, very much. I mean I still do. I still have to remind myself over time, like, wait, I shouldn't be overthinking too much. I should need to trust my gut more.
Hmm.
Whenever I realize that now I see happen and happen again, I see the confirmation. Whenever I trust my gut, things will generally turn out to be right.
Yeah.
When I just trying to reason, like why, answering the question why, and then pick a result, pick a direction, oftentimes I end up regretting it.
When you
And
say
that's
why,
very
what's the
different
wrong?
than the scientific mindset.
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
You're saying when you're being too logical, you
Yeah,
end up choosing the wrong path, wrong choice. Um,
exactly.
yeah.
Right.
There's so much more in terms of information that we gather as humans because we are very intelligent in terms of we need to use our whole senses, all the senses to make decisions.
Hmm.
When we only
Hmm.
rely on this frontal lobe, the
Yeah.
outcome is not the most favorable. We
Right.
ignore all
Right.
the other subconscious data that we've been collecting.
Yeah, because the frontal lobe is judging what you can see physically.
Correct. Yeah.
And but there's so much things that you can really see physically.
And by the
Such
time,
as the vibe around a person when you met them. That's
yes.
not, you can't really put a word to it, but you sense this might not be a right person for me to work with. And
Hmm.
that is not necessarily logical. You just sense it, you feel it.
Yeah.
And do you trust it, or do you trying to analyze it? Oh no, this person is experienced, is professional, have a great network, and it would be a good partner and whatnot, right? On paper it's good person to work with,
Yeah.
but there's a certain vibe that doesn't really resonate or it doesn't seem right. In the past I tend to lean over on the logical side. So even though I don't feel so right, I'm like, okay, I'm going to give you a benefit of doubt.
Hmm.
So I'm going to trust what I see on the paper and give you a chance. But then oftentimes I regretted that decision. And once I go to a different route, or maybe not completely different, maybe like balance it out, I would look at the logical side, but then I also trust my gut
Yeah.
that, okay, when I feel the positive or right energy around that person, because, any business is all about people, it's connection.
Yeah.
So if, from reading people and working with people, you can really just like rely on logic.
Yeah.
So I learned to trust my gut more to make
Amazing.
better decision.
Yeah. Grace, is there any final advice you'd give to someone who is in the situation where they're a mother wanting to start a new venture, changing career, going into entrepreneurship, or anyone wanting to get into real estate investing? People can relate at so many levels when I do these interviews because we meet people where they are. And this is a universal issue we're discussing right now, right? It defies where people live. It defies their situation in terms of culture, right? Gender, it defies all of that. So if anyone's watching and they're interested in entrepreneurship, interested in real estate investing, interested in changing careers as a parent, what is the advice that you would give them?
I would say number one thing is accept the fact that you will never be ready enough to make the jump.
Love it.
But rather asking the right question, better question is, if I don't make the jump, what will happen? Am I okay with that result? When I okay with the outcome 10, 20, 30 years down the road? If you're not okay, I would say be get prepared as much as you can and then make the jump and don't look back. You do have to have a little faith, live of faith. It
Mhm.
cannot be just rely on logical. I would have to get to this point because myself example, I said, okay, when I get my first property or when I get to my 10 property, when I get my 20 property, then I'm ready. When I get there, no, it was not ready. I still not ready. So looking back, if I just have a little bit more live of faith, I will make the transition a lot faster, and maybe I would be in a much better, a much different place. I wouldn't say a better or worse, but it would be a much different place.
Yeah. Start now.
So
Yeah.
yes,
The
yeah,
best
do
time.
it now. If you don't, you're not okay.
Yeah. They
Yeah,
you ever heard that quote? The best time to start, if it wasn't yesterday, is today, right? Like best time to plant
yeah.
a tree was like 20 years ago. If not, it's
Hmm.
right now.
Yeah, because the only time that you can count is today.
Yeah.
Past is not past. The future, you're not there yet. The only time that you can count is today. And yeah, so that would be my advice for people that haven't made the jump or made the transition to change career and whatnot. And I would say it's a very tough decision. I'm not downplaying the difficulty. But we all know we will choose to convince ourselves with various reasons to believe what we want to believe, and we will never feel ready to make a change.
Yeah.
So ask yourself a better question is, am I be okay staying the way that we are right now in the next 10, 20, 50, 30 years? And if the answer is no, then make the change. Things will be okay.
Thank you so much for your
Yeah.
amazing insight.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here and sharing your story, sharing your message. I know for many people, this is not that easy to speak to the public about such private matters, but doing this is going to help so many people. So thank you for that.
And I want to thank Julia, and you have been a very, very great coach to me.
Thank
And I could have done it without you. I mean, I'm thankful that I'm part of the program, I'm part of the group, and the support that I'm gotten from the group is tremendous. And I really, really appreciate that. And thank you so much for having me today. And I'm glad that um, I'm hoping the message I'm putting out there will help other moms that who struggle with family and career. And if you are thinking about alternative, and real estate definitely is one of the best options. If you want to reach out, and I'd be happy to help. You can find me in Facebook, and you can search Grace Wang or Clarity Properties LLC, and you will find me. And I would love to connect.
Yeah, I will put methods to contact Grace down below in the description so people can easily do that. Thank you so much, Grace. It's been a blessing.
Thank you.